Hello and welcome to the Battle Line Podcast, where we have conversations on that collision of space between community, faith, and culture. Welcome to episode 50 of the Battle Line Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Satterley, and here with me is the Director of Publications, my co-host on this podcast, my co-host in life, Major Jamie Satterley. Jamie, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. First day in the office after spring break. So, got to clean out that email box. But I'm feeling good, rested.
For sure.
Rejuvenated, ready to go.
We also have with us here our co-host, our producer, our media and marketing manager. Her job title is the one who really makes this whole thing work. Elizabeth, how are you doing today?
I'm just totally jazzed. How about you?
Hey, no alliteration today. Totally jazzed. I'll take it. That's awesome.
So today we have a very special guest with us, Lieutenant Colonel David Davis, who is stationed here at NHQ. He is an Eastern Territory officer, although originally from the South.
From New Orleans, I believe.
Don't get it twisted. But he came to NHQ from the Eastern Territory. And so some of his responsibilities include being a liaison with Capitol Hill. So we've invited him here to talk about what that really looks like. When the Salvation Army goes to the Hill, what are we doing over there? The people want to know. So we're going to find out today. How are you doing this morning, Colonel?
I'm feeling fine. Thank you for having me on the program today.
We're excited you're here because I got questions.
Okay. I hope I have answers.
So as you heard, Colonel, part of his responsibility is liaison with Capitol Hill. So before, Colonel, we're going to ask you to tell you a little bit about yourself. My first question for you is, who did you vote for in the last election?
Oh, wow. I don't even remember that. It was so long ago.
All right. No, please.
It's sort of a private thing within the family as well.
Please tell us about yourself. Like you said, some people are going, well, he's from New Orleans, but he's an Eastern officer. So tell us about yourself. How long have you been a Salvation Army officer? Who you married to? How many kids you have? And then what is your official title? And what is your current appointment?
Sure. Sounds good. Well, I'm married to my beautiful wife, Margaret, and I have two wonderful daughters, Brittany and Alexa. Both are young adults living in New York City. And my journey with the Army started years ago in the scouting program that was offered by the local Salvation Army in New Orleans.
Shout out to troops. Troops.
Yeah, exactly. And since then, I was hooked. That was the hook that really kept me going through my youth years. So from that point to where I am today. So I owe it to the scouting program. And so in terms of service in the Army, I've been an officer about 28 years. And something unique to that is I was an officer before I met my wife. And so my wife wasn't an officer at the time that I met her. So, the policy is I had to step out. So I did that. And then my wife received her calling to officership later, 10 years later, to be exact. So she went into training in the East in 1996. So we're enjoying ministry in the Army, and my current role is the National Social Services and Public Policy Liaison, and also Special Representative to Capitol Hill. So whenever people
special representative,
I am special. Trust me. Okay. so whenever people hear me say my title, they're like, "Man, that was long." so I try to break it down. If I'm working on one thing of social services, or that I'll say just that. But if it's the Hill work, then I'll say special rep to Capitol Hill.
I like that little French accent you put on there. The liaison. That's that New
Liaison?
Orleans. That's that New Orleans
Yeah,
coming out. Liaison.
So, okay. So, as you're in your role as the special representative,
yes.
I'm not going to do a French accent. It will not work.
Liaison.
The Arkansas doesn't lend itself to French accents. It doesn't work well. So, what are some of your responsibilities when it comes to Capitol Hill? Like, what does a special representative do?
Um, a lot, but in terms of some of the specifics, I function to connect the Army with national leaders, members of Congress, and the various federal governments agencies. So that will take on a form in terms of making meetings with members of Congress for the national commander, the national chief, and my wife and I. And so we have opportunity to make our presence known on the Hill. And you will be surprised at the response that we get when we visit members of Congress, which is to, of course, our benefit, the Army's benefit. So basically to help them understand who we are, what we do, and the really outreach that we have. So we are the number one non-governmental social services provider in the country, with serving over 22 million a year, um, and covering every zip code with about 6,900 service locations. So, given that reach, we will be able to offer our assistance as requested by them or as on an on needed basis.
That's great, Colonel. Listen, to our listeners out there, there is no better person to be our special representative than Lieutenant Colonel David Davis. This man is he's never met a stranger before in his life. So he's the man you want. I've seen this man like in the cafeteria get his food, put it down, and then go around and talk to every single person in the NHQ dining room, and then come back to his food. So he's the guy that we want in the room. So, Colonel, here's my question. We want to remind people first off, because I think, and maybe you could just talk to us a little bit. You are not a lobbyist. You're not
No.
walking around saying, "Hey, like, what can the Salvation Army do for you? What can you do for the Salvation Army?"
I'm gonna leave this cash on the table, and then maybe you can make a vote on our behalf. It's not that at all.
No, it's nothing like that. I mean, as you know, we serve people across the country with the greatest need. And so basically, we want to be able to tell that story to make sure that Congress is aware of what we're doing, our capacity, and to be able to offer our assistance to them in helping the people that they serve. So that's what it's really about, making them aware, and sometimes really putting a face with the name. So that goes a long way with being able to say, yes, I know that person, I've met with that person. And so that dialogue then helps trickle down through the services that we provide as we connect out to the field.
Cool. And so can you talk about that? What are those meetings like when you meet with a congressman or a congresswoman? Not only are you meeting with on behalf of national leaders and national leadership, but you do, like you said, you try to connect them back to the Salvation Army back home, so that when they're back home with their constituents, that's a fancy word, back to the people that voted for them, they can connect the Army there. So tell us a little bit. What do those meetings look like when you're walking into a congressman or congresswoman's office?
Well, first, they're glad to see us. And so the sit down and the conversation is always warm. And we get to know them through their conversations that they share with us. And then we are able then to be able to talk about exactly what we can do to help this growing dilemma of poverty in our country. And so we were able to say, hey, listen, in your district or in your state, these are some of the things that we're doing. Are there areas that you need support in? And you'll be interested to know that many of them say, yeah, there are areas that we do need help with. We can't do it all. And we understand that because no one agency, no one government can do everything. So it takes everybody coming together and collaborating. We're trying to meet the needs of the citizens.
And you meet. I didn't ask you this ahead of time, but you meet with lawmakers on both sides of the aisles, right? You're not. We'll talk about this a little bit in a minute, but like you're reaching out to Republicans, to Democrats, to independents, to everybody, right?
That is correct. In that sense of nonpartisan. So the fact is, our focus is on the people that we serve, not the person who holds the office. And so, no matter what they are perceived as on both sides of the aisle, um, we are concerned about the people in the districts or in the state that they serve. So we will meet with anyone that will give us opportunity to share what we're about and how we can help them in serving the people in their districts.
That's great stuff, Colonel. I think our listeners needed to hear that, and that's such a word for the culture in which we live today.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's easy for us to get caught up in those kind of things and, say, well, maybe we're not talking to people on both sides, but at the end of the day, that stuff doesn't, I mean, it matters, but to our service, it doesn't. Our service is, to the people.
That's correct.
All of humanity, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Anybody who has a need, that's who we're there to serve. Can you tell us a little bit, or maybe a story where you might have had a moment where you were meeting with somebody on the Hill, and maybe something with the collaboration just came together. You thought, okay, this is really just made all of this effort that we do over there worthwhile.
Yeah, there's a couple I can share with you. I won't use the name of the member, but I will just share in general that as a result of our sharing our capacity and then also what we were able to provide in the district of that member, we are now moving towards developing a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with that office in terms of working together to meet the needs of the people in the district of that particular member. So that is not something that is on the books, if you will, but it's something that we are working towards, and we hope to be able to wrap this up within the month so that we can basically, whatever requests they get from their citizens of their district, they will then reach directly to the Salvation Army to help meet that need. And then we will report back to them if we were able to assist that person in need.
Very cool. You said did you have another story?
Yeah. So another member has been very gracious to the Army in support. And in particular, we've honored that person. We've invited that person to speak at one of our national conferences. And this person is working with the local Salvation Army to help build a shelter in the community. And so during the conference, this particular member indicated that they were going to pledge $1 million towards that project. So it would serve those who are homeless in the community.
Very cool. Colonel, do you also, like we said, congressmen and congresswomen, but do you also meet with anybody outside of the legislative branch of government? I mean, do you get to meet with anybody from the Secretary of State or the vast government departments that we have?
We do, and there are layers of governmental departments and lay persons, but we work with Department of Education, Agriculture. There's about 7 different departments that we work with to, again, inform of our capacity, but also to see where there are opportunities to collaborate with them as well. And that would also include the White House as well.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Colonel. So, and to our listeners, the Salvation Army has international position statements. And we have an international position statement on the Salvation Army and the state. If you don't know what it says, if you've never heard of this, I urge you right now, listeners, well, wait till this podcast is over and then go and Google Salvation Army International Position Statement, the Salvation Army and the state. All right. It's how the Salvation Army interacts with government. The Salvation Army is, according to our position statement, nonpartisan. As much as sometimes people wish we were, the Salvation Army is nonpartisan. So my question to you, Colonel, is, and I know when it gets into politics, it gets into touchy subject, but how is this helpful to the mission that the Salvation Army is nonpartisan when you're the guy walking into Capitol Hill?
Well, again, by that particular term says that we are able to meet with and collaborate with the offices of both sides of the aisle to really focus on the needs of the people. And that, again, is our focus, is meeting the needs of those persons in the district or in the state of the members that they serve. So, so there is no misunderstanding. We're not siding with anyone but the people that needs the service.
I love that. I love that.
How does the work that you do on the Hill help the Salvation Army across the nation?
Well, we give opportunities through the public policy department to arrange meetings with local advisory or members of the Corps who have particular programs that they are operating that may be looking for avenues of funding. And so they're able to meet with the member or a staff of the member to ask questions and to see where there is funding streams available for them to tap into to help run their operations.
Very cool. All right, Colonel, thanks for talking with us. Before we ask the last question, we'll just give you this last thing. What do you want people to know about? What's your last word? What do you want people to know about what you do, about what the Army does? If they had questions and thoughts like that, what do you want them to know? Last words are yours.
Well, just to know that on the national level, we are working hard to bring resources to the field as best possible from our end of things, and that it would be helpful if on the local level, if they could make it a point to visit their local leaders, political
that's
leaders.
Great. That's great.
So that just gives them an opportunity to have a foot in the door, a seat at the table, perhaps. And as you know, if you're visible, you're able to be seen, and perhaps through that, resources will become more available to you.
That's good.
So without that visibility, they won't know what your needs are. So we need to put them on the table, and a visit, a letter, an invitation to them to come and see a program, participate in a program, goes a long way.
That's great, Colonel. That's good homework for our listeners. If you should reach out and contact your local congressman, congresswoman when they have to go home. So when they're at home, correct, you can do that. Also, they have a home office as well. But also, if you don't know who your congressmen in Congress, who your representatives are, you can do that with an easy Google search. I think Major Jamie, I can just talk to her here for a moment, let her maybe talk to this. I remember when we were in Florida, she had the phone numbers of her representatives right there by her office so that she could, whenever something would happen, it's our job as Americans to reach out to our representatives. They represent us. So Major Jamie, I don't know if you want to talk to that just to wrap this up.
No, I mean, yeah, I think people don't really understand, or maybe it's just not a thought about how accessible really your representatives are. And so, whether it's by email or by letter or by phone, there are people who are, staffing and all those kind of things. And it's true, I wasn't calling on behalf of the Salvation Army. I was calling on behalf of myself as a concerned citizen of the United States, wanting to make sure that, that my voice was heard in the process. And so I would call and talk to, staffers, and, generally they're very friendly and wanting to hear, that there's a process for all of that. And so it was very easy. You just Google it. There's a website, where you can just pull up all the contact information if you want to send an email, if you want to send a letter, if you want to call. Sometimes if it's, depending on what's happening in the world at that time, it's hard. It might be hard to get somebody on the phone, but sometimes they call you back. And either way, you leave a message, or you're making your voice heard. And I think that's an important thing, is just to be a part of the process, right? And even on, like we were saying with Colonel Davis, his part of the process isn't about lobbying or making his opinion known or saying this is what the Salvation Army thinks, because we don't do that. We're nonpartisan. But it is saying, hey, how can the Salvation Army come alongside the people in these communities and be of help? Like, that's what we're here for. So everybody has a part to play in the system. So we gotta play our part.
Yeah, like what Major Jamie's saying there is, when you call, once you find your representative's phone number, don't expect your congressman and congresswoman to answer the phone. They only answer the phone when Lieutenant Colonel David Davis calls.
Marco Rubio never answered but I talked to lovely staffers. And the other guy's name is slipping me, but his staffers were quite nice to you.
All right. Major Jamie, you want to ask our last question of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. So we ask this question every guest we have, or every time we do an episode. I think it's important. Sometimes it's easy to get bogged down in the weight of the world, but we also want to focus on the things that we're thankful for and what is bringing us joy. So that's our question for you today, Colonel. What is giving you joy right now?
Well, in terms of my direct work, just to see how open the members of Congress are at hearing our story and being very supportive of what we're trying to accomplish in terms of our mission, and really some great results as we've been able to meet with the members of Congress. In addition to that, as I was saying to your husband, Major Matt, is I enjoy a very good, delicious, hot muffin on Tuesday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets me going.
Yes. Listen, I campaigned to the powers that be. I was like, can Muffin Tuesday be a forever?
She called her Salvation Army representative.
I called my representative. Was like, hey, my understanding is this is temporary, but I want this to be a permanent fixture, because those warm muffins on Tuesday morning make the world go round. So if we could keep that.
You see, and that's exactly it. That makes all the difference. Thank you, Major Jamie, because now every Tuesday I have a hot muffin.
Yes.
Two follow-up questions.
Works.
2 follow-up questions. Colonel Davis. 1, what's your favorite kind of muffin?
A banana nut.
Okay. And 2, I should ask this earlier, but just ballpark it for us. Since you've been in this appointment, how many members of Congress have you probably met with? What's the number?
I believe there's about 110, 112, something around there.
112. That's good. When you said 1 and paused, we were all scared for a second.
Well, I just remember you said pause, so I had to pause because I'm trying to figure out the number count.
110, 112 meetings with Congress. That's amazing, Colonel. Thank you for doing that. Jamie or Elizabeth, whoever wants to go, what's giving you joy?
Elizabeth, go ahead. You go first.
Well, I just want to say I've loved the muffin chat. That's just so fab. So I'm going to go, jelly beans have been so rad. I just love them.
This is your time to shine right now, this season.
Yes. So
Elizabeth,
I love jelly beans.
Do you like the bougie jelly beans, like Jelly Belly, or you like regular old school Walmart jelly beans?
Do you like the bougie jelly beans, or you like the Dollar General jelly beans?
No, I'm really happy you asked, because I went to my local CVS and they only had the fancy ones, and that's just not my jam. So I had to go to another establishment and find the good stuff. And so I got 2 bags.
Now they should be on sale because it's post Easter.
Okay, I have to be. Well, I couldn't wait. I didn't want to risk, them not having it. So I
Yeah.
got 2 for $7. I don't know if that's a good deal or not. I'm not really, an expert in the field.
Yeah.
So
Dollar General, CVS, Jelly Bellies, not a sponsor. But if you guys want to sponsor the show, hit us up. Major Jamie, what's giving you joy, Major Jamie?
So we just got back from spring break.
Don't you steal mine. Don't you steal mine.
I don't know what you're going to say. We
You
didn't talk
go
about
for
this beforehand. So we just got back from spring break and we got to see a part of the country we've never been to before. Neither one of us have been there. The girls hadn't been. So we went to Vermont, which Vermont was very different than what I expected it to be. But we had a great time there. And then we went over to Niagara Falls, also very different than what I expected it to be, but in the opposite direction. But it was just great to see, parts of the country that we haven't been in. It was great to be on vacation. Am I allowed to say that? To just have a little bit of time off and to just hang out with my kids. They're growing at a rapid rate, 16 and 13. They're getting to those stages where they don't really care what mom has to say. But, on vacation, we all seem to, love each other, and it's fantastic.
I was going to say the same thing that's giving me joy was almost the same thing. I will just point out one of the cool things that happened to us is when we were up in Vermont, we just said there was Jamie said, let's go see how maple syrup is made. And so we just swung into this little farm and it was like
sugar houses. They're all over the place.
We swing and there's like 3 grizzled farmers on this dirt road. My kids behind us are like, well, we're about to get murked. But we just asked the guy, he's like, hey, can you show us the process? And the guy was like, absolutely. So this like grizzled Vermont farmer gave us like just a private family tour of how they tap the trees, how the sap comes out, how they put it. And they took us into the shed, which my daughters were really like, oh, now we're definitely getting murked. Going to end up in a full of ice.
This is going to be a podcast one day. Yeah. True crime podcast.
True crimes with the Battle Line podcast. And then, but he showed us how like they put the sap into these machines and how they heat it up and how they give us syrup. So it was very cool. He didn't have to do that. Give us like a little private family tour.
Yeah, I mean, really, we were just going to like poke around and then just buy maple syrup. But he gave us a full-fledged tour, talked to us about like the exact conditions that have to happen for you people to get your syrup is crazy. Something about like the temperature at night and the temperature in the day and the wind blowing a certain way and just all these things to allow the sap to come out of the tree and then the different colors. It was a fascinating fascinating process.
Temperature defines taste. I had no idea, but there you go.
And then we brought home some maple syrup and it's glorious. While we were in there, he gave us these little like Dixie cup shot glasses of syrup and he was like, just drink it. We were like, my kids were like, we could just drink the syrup. I was like, yeah, what the man said it, just drink it.
Note for the audio, it was Major Jamie that used the phrase shot glasses, not Matt Satterley.
But it was, yeah. So I was like, well, we're definitely going to get diabetes now. We're just chugging this syrup. Like it was good syrup though. And we did indeed bring us home some maple syrup.
We did not get
Vermont.
murked and we did not get the sugars, as they say in the South.
Yes.
So Colonel Davis, thank you so much for joining us. If you have further questions, comment on this or hit us up and we would be glad to be able to get in contact with Colonel David Davis if people have follow-up questions or anything like that. He doesn't have his own website, but he is the man.
You should. You're the special representative. You should have a website.
The Liaison. Thanks, Colonel. Thanks, Colonel, for being with us. That's going to end this episode of the Battle Line Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the Battle Line wherever you listen to podcasts, and be sure to check out the Peer website at peermag.org and follow Peer on the socials at peer.magazine. Until next time, this has been the Battle Line Podcast. Bye, everybody.